Hi, everybody. Let's see here. Thanks for tuning in on a Sunday morning, and a good Sunday morning at that. All right, let's do it. It is the 200 level. Mike Carpenter in the basement studio on a Sunday morning. It's been a while, and it was well worth the wait. Illinois beats Michigan 21-7 at home on October 19th, 2024, in what I'm dubbing in this podcast the game of the century. And I don't mean to say that the game itself was some incredible 60 minutes of football. It was actually a somewhat regular Big Ten football game in many respects, which plays right in the hands of what Bret Bielema's teams tend to do when they're successful. But it was all the circumstances around it that I think it is fair to dub this the game of the century. And whether you are like me, soon to be 38 years old, my birthday is tomorrow, or younger or much older, whatever age you're at, this has been a long time coming, right? This has been a game that has been circled in the back of our minds ever since it first became apparent that, yes, on this date, the Big Ten was going to let Illinois have their moment if we wanted to take it and take advantage of it, right? If we wanted to go out there and actually get the win. Everything else is laid out there for you, right? In a way that was almost too perfect. And yet, where there have been so many times that I've walked into that stadium and felt almost a sense of existential anxiety or dread in the worst moments, I didn't feel that for a second yesterday. The lowest I ever got in terms of emotion, let's say going into halftime, was uncertainty. What is going to happen when Michigan gets the ball to start the second half, and are they going to just kind of run it down our throats? Didn't happen. But that was the most I felt. And as I tried to gauge the mood in the tailgate lots and in the stadium itself, I sensed a sort of at-ease quality to the fans in there that I'm not used to as an Illini fan. In fact, what I'm used to is, here we go again. And to give you an example of that, almost a year to the day, last year, Wisconsin came in here for a game that would have gotten Illinois, I believe, back to 500 and certainly would have got them into a bowl game by year's end. And in that fourth quarter, when Johnny Newton went out, you felt that existential dread come back. Now, maybe something could have happened in that game yesterday that would have brought the existential dread back into the minds of the 60,000 plus that were in that stadium. But maybe not. Because from the kick to the final second ticking off that clock, Illinois was the better team for 60 minutes. They just were the better team. They looked at in every facet of the game. And as I wake up on this Sunday, I'm still wrapping my head around the fact that not only did you check off every box in this potential storybook moment, right? You checked off every single box, which we will get to every single one of those that amounted to it being an all-time day for Illini fans. But for the game itself, you showed up and put together, top to bottom, a complete performance. No duds, very few silly moments, if at all. Just sound, fundamental football. Or, as Bret Bielema preaches, and I know T. Edwards had a great quote about the tough, smart, dependable mantra, which has been what Bielema has uttered from day one since he got here. And there have been many moments where we've seen that and some moments where we haven't seen that. And a whole history's worth of Illini football can lead you into thinking that, oh, man, the rug's going to be pulled out from underneath us, and that tough, smart, dependable that we sometimes see will be replaced by, cue the Benny Hill music and silly mistakes that would lose you football games like this. It didn't happen. And it didn't even come close to happening, to the point where when I was talking with my Michigan family, so on Kara's side, she's a Spartan, okay, so graduated from Michigan State. She was neutral yesterday, though leaning Illinois, of course. And the rest of her family was down in their Michigan gear, as they should be, because if I went to a Michigan-Illinois game, I'm wearing Illinois stuff. So it was cool to have that both mingling in the tailgate. But afterwards, my brother-in-law, who's a huge Michigan football fan, essentially just said, you guys were just better. You're just a better football team than us. And imagine being an Illini fan, and maybe you had this experience yesterday if you have a Michigan fan that you are related to or a friend with, and having them tell you that. And not even in a disparaging way. He admitted that Michigan is not a great football team right now, and I think we'd agree with that. But what it was so nice, and I told him this, there have been a few times that I've watched big Illini football games with my Michigan family. Last year at Iowa, the week before Thanksgiving, a game that we probably should have won, and it felt like it was right there. We were on the cusp of it. And I'm watching it with them, and then we blow up in the fourth quarter. And they're so nice, and they're like, oh, man, that stinks. Sorry about that, you know. And then the year before that, the Illinois at Michigan game, we watched it at my brother-in-law and sister-in-law's house. And afterwards, just, hey, great game. That stinks how it ended for you guys. And as I told him yesterday, I always appreciated that. But at the same time, at a certain point, you get tired of other fan bases saying, hey, sorry about that. That stinks. You want to be on the other side of it. You want to be on the side that's like, yeah, we won. We played a good game, and we're a good football team. And we were able to do that yesterday against, in my mind, the behemoth of all Big Ten programs. Yes, Ohio State has been more successful in the last 20 years overall. And yes, Oregon looks to be the new behemoth in the Big Ten, and that's probably going to stick for a while with all their resources. But Michigan, you see that uniform come out of the tunnel. And I've seen in that stadium disappointments against Michigan, and I think just one good moment in my lifetime, which was 2009, when a random Ron Zook team that was not very good beat Michigan on Halloween at home. But for the most part, these games end in disappointing fashion. And you're reminded as an Illini fan what our place is as a program and what their place is as a program. And yesterday, on the 100th anniversary, as my sister was saying, because I sat with her, 100 years ago, Michigan and Illinois are two powerhouses. As the CBS did in their fantastic intro yesterday, and if you haven't had the chance to watch it, it's 4 minutes of just expertly produced TV. It's big time, boys. We were on CBS with the best announcers in the business, and they rolled out the red carpet for our moment, and we seized it, right? But as my sister said yesterday, 100 years ago, who would have guessed at that moment that it would have been Michigan that went on to have the 100 years that they did, and Illinois went on to have their relative, some moments, sure, but a far less successful century. Who was to say back then? So who's to say now in 2024? Now we're sitting here October 20th, 2024. Who's to say the next 100 years don't go the complete divergent path? And Illinois grabs what could be theirs. And mind you, I say this and I do mean it. I don't need this to be a perennial powerhouse program. I don't need that. I just need a sustainable kind of success where every Saturday you're excited to go back to that stadium. And I think we can do that. But also, who's to say that there's not an avenue or a possibility that this program could go on to even greater things? And that Michigan might experience something that like we did the 100 years before that. Now, that's less important to me. Whatever Michigan does or does not do is not my concern. What Illinois does is. And yesterday, in so many ways, whether you call it validation or an arrival moment, it was important. It felt good in a way that good has not felt here. We've had these intermittent bits of, I think Bielema can get it done, right? We've had these moments. We've also had moments where we think, man, is it just too much of an uphill climb? And even before the season started, I was uncertain about the future of Bielema and this program because I knew that we were more competitive, objectively better than we had been. But in this NIL climate, what's our role? And here we are in year 4, 7 games into year 4, with a 6-1 football team, and the AP rankings will be in the top 20. About to face number 1 Oregon. What the hell? Take your shot. And for it to coincide with this 100th anniversary and for that game to go the way it did, it is cinematic. I mean, it's just like, what can you say? There's so many macro storylines that all fed into this one day where even Mother Nature cooperated with you and said, you know what, we're going to give you this one. We're going to give you 72 and sunny and an absolutely perfect mid-October day. And we seized the damn moment. So what we're going to talk about today, in chat window, you can light it up. We're going to keep it very macro. What did this game mean to you? because it meant a lot, I know, to Illini fans. And I think the cool thing about it is whatever your personal journey is with this program, whatever family connections you may have or generations worth of season tickets, the conversations at the dinner tables or in your garages or your man caves or wherever with your group of Illini football brethren that have so often left that stadium or turned off the TV and just been disappointed with what you've seen. No longer is that the case. And the sort of happiness that I felt yesterday, triumphant, sure, beaming ear to ear, certainly, but also reminded just how deep college sports especially can run with those you're closest with. And without waxing too sentimental or nostalgic here, I mean, shoot, I wrote a book about it for basketball, but, there were moments before that game where even getting there in the tailgate lots in the morning, where I felt emotional, thinking about the fact that generations of my family have been either going to the tailgate lots or, in the case of my great-grandfather, raising funds for the stadium while a student at the University of Illinois. And here I am, 100 years after the fact, getting to soak this moment in. Special is the only word that comes to mind for me when I think about it, and that might even be an understatement. So I want to hear from you, and I got some Twitter responses, but chat window lighted up. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I guess, got to remind you the 200 level is brought to you by Hamilton Walkers in downtown Champaign. Steak, seafood, and spirits. I know Ethan, who stopped by the tailgate yesterday, enjoyed a after-game beverage with him, said that after listening to the podcast, he got a gift card for his parents to go there for the 40th anniversary. I know they're going to enjoy it, Ethan. It is such a classy joint and great food, affordable prices. Best old-fashioned in town is Anthony, who also dropped by the tailgate yesterday. He had it on Friday night, and he also concurred. Great old-fashioned, which I'm going to have later today in celebration of just this incredible weekend. And a few other things happened to me that made it an incredible weekend. But Hamilton Walkers is a great place for any celebration, date nights, pre- or post-game Illini action, whatever it may be. And you can visit them in downtown Champaign. Also, Brian Hansen, State Farm agent, online at brianismyguy.com for life, auto, home, business, renters, you name it. Brian is my guy, and he can be your guy as well, but brianismyguy.com. Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing. Give them a call, 217-841-4728. That's Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing, a great place for you to get your furnace checked because while this week will be warmer, we are approaching colder temperatures. Had a few of those last week, and we had forgot to switch our Google Nest to heat, right? Because it had been warm. So we go to Cancun, we come back, our poor dog sitter. The temperature was 59 degrees when we got back home. Now, fortunately, when we kicked the heat on, I think within about 30 minutes, our house was cooking again. Why? Because Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing, they checked it out, and they got it purring like a kitten. So, Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing, your home's best friend at 217-841-4728. Finally, Owen Builders, LLC, online at owenbuildersllc.com for home projects of many kinds. You can check out a gallery of their work online and get a free quote at owenbuildersllc.com. All right. Champagne Showers Podcast Network. Appreciate them and appreciate you. Of course, the book is available, and it is at Game Day Spirit locally, both locations, Jane Addams Bookstore in downtown Champaign and The Lit in downtown Champaign. All right, so got some things lining up here in the thread. Real quick, I'm going to get this out of the way because this is neither a Yankees nor a Dave Matthews Band podcast. But to tell you yesterday was perfect is an understatement for someone like me. It is the trifecta, as my dad called it this morning. Illinois wins. 6 o'clock, go back out to the lot, have a celebratory drink as we're tearing down the tailgate set. Get home. Yankees, Indians, go to extras, Juan Soto, 3-run shot. We're going to the World Series. Okay. That's 2. Immediately after that, we had Disney Plus on because it was the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction. And for those that know me or listen to the podcast, you know I've been 91 Dave Matthews Band shows. They got inducted last night. They closed out the night. Special moment. And what a convergence. So I'm sitting here quite slap happy and surprisingly not hungover on a Sunday morning. I was a good boy yesterday. And honestly, when you are kind of soaking in just general happiness, you sort of forget to do the partying part. Like, we tear down the tailgate setup, and we always joke about, hey, we're going to do this, that, or the other after to go celebrate, but we're always just zonked after those big moments. You just want to kind of go home and unwind and just bask in it, right? Though some I know, and I hope you did, if you chose to do this, went out and partied hard. It's worthy of that kind of celebration. But that was my night. I mean, it does not get better than that. It really does not. So I am just absolutely cloud nine on the Sunday morning. But it really started from when I got to the tailgate lot yesterday, and I could tell when I pulled into my spot at about 10 after 7, and there was a line to get in. Got to my spot, started setting it up, and by 8 o'clock, it was mostly set up, and I'm just sort of sitting there waiting for other people to come to tailgate and enjoying that 30 minutes to an hour between 8 and 9 of just kind of sitting in contemplation, which sounds a little bit more serious than it really was. It was basically me with my coffee, standing at one of our cocktail height tables, and just looking around this scene on a beautiful Saturday. A little bit brisk in the morning, but man, when that sun hit, it was a warm October sun. And from where we tailgate in Lot 31, I just looked down our parking lane, and there's the 50-yard line of Memorial Stadium, just glistening, right? It is a beautiful architectural work of art, pretty much, right? And that was when I was thinking about the connections for me personally and my family. And we are more of an Illini basketball family, and that has a lot more to do with the overall level of success that they've had in our lifetimes. But the Illini football thing runs really deep. So I mentioned in the intro that great-grandfather on my mom's side, so it would have been her grandfather, was a student at the University of Illinois, and I think graduated in 23. And in his last year of college, or last couple years, was on a fundraising committee for the stadium, which cost just under $2 million. I want to say $1.4 or $1.7 million, which I know for 1923 is a lot of money, but it's still kind of crazy to me that with all that brick and all that limestone and all this ornate work throughout the stadium, the fixtures and everything, that's all it cost. It's actually pretty remarkable, right? So I'm thinking, wow, like this was something that 4 generations ago was entrenched in my family. Now, neither my mom or dad's parents, so neither my sets of grandparents, were super big into sports. They would like it if Illinois won, but they were not diehard fans, right? If Illinois lost, they'd be, oh, that's a bummer, but they wouldn't be like me where I throw a water bottle or just they probably had a healthy amount of separation from it. But my dad, of course, super into it. And with Illinois football, it's kind of funny yesterday how, as I'm really soaking in the tailgate lot and seeing what it has become, even this year, Kansas being the first whoa moment, and then this moment against Michigan. I don't know if it's as crazy as tailgate in the 1980s. I didn't experience it. And much in the same way that I wrote in the Illini basketball book, the 89 Flying Illini, I heard all about it and I watched the VHS tapes, but part of me was like resentful, for lack of a better term, because I didn't get to experience it, right? With Illini football, I'd hear about the 80s belonged to the Illini, and Mike White was this and that. And yeah, he was a charismatic guy, and he made us relevant. And then John Malkovich had success as well. But I didn't get to experience that sort of rush, that momentum, that energy. And for me, it's been very intermittent. It's been a game here, a game there. But for the most part, these big tailgates, you would always get the sense in the lot that whenever the game talk started, hey, what do you think is going to happen today? There was a sort of, oh, we'll see what happens. But in the back of most people's minds, you felt like, this might not go well, or something bad might happen. And I mentioned in the introduction that sense of dread or expecting something bad to happen, that wasn't there yesterday. And it could be contagious. A year ago against Wisconsin in the fourth quarter, the entire stadium felt it. I bet it trickled down to the bench. It's human nature. It wasn't there yesterday. So what explains this, right? What explains that less than a year removed from what was a disappointing third season for Bret Bielema, where you got no breaks, but you also weren't creating a lot of breaks for yourself either? How is it that less than a year later, I don't want to call it supreme confidence, but gone are the days or the expectations that we're going to blow this? I mean, to me, the fourth quarter was kind of a thing of beauty and all of its dullness, relatively speaking, because Michigan, I mean, the Matthew Bailey interception was sweet, especially considering that was after Loveland had got the 4th and 18 conversion. And then Bailey, who had had some bad plays earlier in that game, makes the one that closes the deal pretty much. But for as boring as that fourth quarter was for a lot of people maybe watching it, because not a lot was happening, I'm having a great old time watching Michigan go on these extended drives and seem to be oblivious to the fact that the clock is ticking away. And I'm just looking, oh, there's 10 minutes, there's 7 minutes, there's 4 minutes, and they haven't done anything yet. What are they doing? And it occurred to me in that fourth quarter, as I'm watching this unfold, tick, 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 right, that we are the fundamentally sound, football team. And they are not. And that, to me, if we're asking why is it that in year 4 of Bielema, with a few disappointments along the way, even in year 2 with an 8-win season, the season kind of tailed off towards the end, how is it that this fan base, so entrenched in existential dread, has been able to flip a switch and just enjoy what's in front of them? I can't give you a quick answer on that. I know from the Kansas game earlier this year and from this game against Michigan, 2 teams that were ranked at the time you played them and probably won't be ranked again for the rest of the year. Though Kansas did win yesterday. Good for them. And good for my 3 Kansas friends that I got into a shouting match with, but that's another story. No issues with Michigan fans yesterday, by the way. They were much better behaved than Kansas fans. Come on, Kansas, get your act together. But I have a hard time answering that question as to why we've been able to flip that switch as a fan base. That stadium yesterday was there to see a win from the get-go. And sure, if someone said, hey, Carp, what do you think is going to happen today? I did not go so far as to say we're going to win, because it being sports and the second half of the Purdue game, of course, looming kind of in the back of our heads, we did take a wait-and-see approach. But it wasn't wait and see what bad thing is going to happen. It was wait and see, and maybe we win this game. And that is such a dramatic difference in just the overall mood and vibe. And as I texted Trevor and Isaac was at the game yesterday, and he stopped by the tailgate, so it was so good to see him. And then Trevor was watching it from home, and he got the whole CBS presentation, which he commented on, and so many on Twitter did, and I'm seeing replays. Boy, oh boy, CBS football hits different. We are lucky as a conference to now have CBS on 2:30s. Sorry, SEC, but I'll take CBS, even if that means we get the occasional Peacock game with Chris Collinsworth's kid. That is a small price to pay to get Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson, the best in the business, to come in here and wear old-timey outfits, speaking at old-timey microphones, as they put an old-timey filter on the freaking camera for us on our 100th anniversary of Memorial Stadium. But just the vibe yesterday, and very much the same with Kansas. It was a big game. We went in. We had fun. We realized that bad things don't always happen. And if you're talking about building a culture as a fan base and as a football program, those are 2 wins that are absolutely instrumental to doing that. I would hope that someday we're going to look back 10 years from now and find another handful of even bigger wins for Bret Bielema's program at home. Bigger moments that we take care of. And I don't know if that's going to be Ohio State next year. That's a lot. But there will be opportunities for big wins at home. Maybe Missouri in a few years. And yeah, sure, keep them on the schedule. Like, maybe we're a good enough program where I don't need to worry about, are we going to win 6? And now that we're out of the woods, right? There's still work for Illinois to do, but we can keep Missouri on the schedule. I won't do the same thing as I did with Kansas. Like, get them off the schedule, get Bowling Green. But I would love 10 years from now to look back and say there have been a handful of bigger moments than that. But at the same time, if we were asked what was the turning point, we would say October 19th, 2024. Is that presumptuous? Is that hyperbolic? I mean, maybe. If you were to be not even pessimistic, but realistic about it, this Michigan team has issues. Duh. Their quarterbacks stink to high heaven. But you know what? I don't want to get too far into that because you only exacerbated Tuttle's awful play with the defensive line, and Gabe Akis in particular, on his ass the entire game. But Michigan still has talent. And I don't think I'm going to look back at that game, even if they finish 6-6, or, 5-7's on the table. They have not an easy schedule, and they got to figure things out. And I don't know if they got the coaching staff to do it. But this is still a team that is a year removed from a national title with a bunch of NFL talent. And you went out there and beat them rather soundly. The game was never really in doubt, if we're being honest with ourselves. And that's going to stick, I think, in terms of it being a monumental moment for Bret Bielema and this football program. Let's talk about some of the circumstances around it, and then I got all these things in the chat there. I'm going to get to all of them in the Twitter feed as well. The uniforms, fantastic. Jarring in a good way. I got into the stadium, and you look down there, and they're so muted. The helmets, I think, were the highlight. I mean, they looked from 30 rows up, they look like leather. On TV, they look like leather. They have gotten so much praise from talking heads all across sports media. You were a story yesterday, and the uniforms were part of it. I am kind of a uniform junkie. I like certain looks more than others. When I play college football 25, I like to mix and match. I hope they add the Red Grange uniforms because that would be fun to play with. But boy, oh boy, they knocked those out of the park. Just absolutely awesome to have those uniforms and be the talk of college football Saturday because of them. The 100th anniversary celebration. I got these pins here. I got a few extra ones just because I wanted them for posterity. But the Red Grange, Illinois rededication game has the date. Beat Michigan at the bottom of it. Got a few of those. Got the programs, which were free. I mean, just another nice touch from the DIA to say, this is a big game. Here's a program, right? And also a program or two that I got. Excuse me. My voice will do that a couple times today. I got a couple of those at the rededication ceremony on Friday, which, again, a rousing success. So you have the uniforms. You have the stadium and all the pomp and circumstance around it. You get the 2:30 CBS kickoff with the best in the business. Putting together with Brian Barnhart's voice, mind you. It starts off with Brian Barnhart doing a radio call for what Red Grange did that day. And then now we're live in Champaign. It's sepia-toned, old-timey filter, ragtime music, doing the Charleston, whatever. I actually thought a hilarious touch would have been, like, right as kickoff is about to start, it's the usual kind of like hip-hop music that they play beforehand. They have a rotation of songs that are pretty consistent. Or even Thunderstruck before that when they come out of the tunnel. And I thought, what if they went full old time and you're hearing like just old big band instrumentals and ragtime piano tunes playing out of the loudspeaker. Just go full 1924. It would be completely jarring and it'd be kind of ridiculous. I thought that would have been an even funnier touch. Or like the Marching Illini, their halftime show was interesting. Before they got to the 3-1, they're doing all the older Illini marching songs, and everyone's looking at each other like, I don't know this one, because they just changed over the years. But just top to bottom, man, the presentation of your football program yesterday was top notch. You looked legit beyond just the football game itself. You looked like a program to be taken seriously. Every aesthetic thing that you had to check off, you did. The stadium, outside of the actual brick and mortar, but the people inside of it yesterday was glowing orange because it was warm. You notice when it gets colder, it gets darker because you were wearing your coats, which are usually black, maybe navy. Not a lot of orange coats out there. It was orange. It was just buzzing. And this leads me to the last point before I get to all your thoughts. The atmosphere. The crowd. It's always tricky to compare and contrast. The 2000 Michigan game had this electricity that I think even my dad would probably agree was on par with like 83, right? I didn't get to live through 83. I wasn't born yet, but it just felt to me as a then 7th grader or 8th grader, excuse me, that this game against Michigan in 2000 was an atmosphere that would maybe never be beat, right? That could have been an arrival moment for Ron Turner, maybe. I don't know if he would have been able to sustain it. Probably not. And I can't compare and contrast so much, But I will say that yesterday was the loudest I've heard that stadium probably since the Rose Bowl year. Actually, I can certifiably say that since the Rose Bowl year, and probably more accurately, 2001, like Wisconsin at home when Brandon Lloyd got the game-winning catch and you won on homecoming. I think it's been 20-some years since that stadium has been like that. A legit sellout, 2:30 kick, crowd in a great mood. Just, there were moments where I'm scanning the stadium and I'm just thinking, this is the coolest thing. This is why sports never get old. Yeah, we paid our dues with a lot of disappointments, but like, if it led to this moment, that's all worth it. That's all worth it. One last thing before I get to your thoughts. We have a good friend of ours at the tailgate. A good friend of mine, his name is Kyle, and his dad, Steve, has become a big part of our tailgates. And Steve is literally like the nicest dude you'll ever meet. And he doesn't know a stranger. He just is good vibes all the damn time. Even if Illinois loses, he's like, oh, that was tough. Let's have a beer. And it's like, okay, you're right. Yeah, let's do that because it's a much better idea than sulking in it. But he comes out victorious. We always wait we know the party of the tailgate's going to start back up when he comes out from the stadium. He has horseshoe tickets and he emerges and we're like, yeah, we're ready to celebrate with Steve. And he tells my brother and sister-in-law, Michigan fans, and this is just hit me really when he said it. So many times leaving that stadium, we haven't had that feeling. And today we do. And like Bret Bielema, I'm not going to focus on past failures because it is what it is. And some of those may have led directly to this moment. Some of them may have just been bad moments that didn't add much of anything to our fandom. They just kind of hurt, But I think there's something to that because I've said many times back in 93.5 and back through the years of this podcast, I would look at a Wisconsin football and be jealous because they have had so many moments that I have not been able to have as a fan. I just wanted to share in that kind of moment and maybe with some regularity if we're lucky. But Steve was exactly right. The reason why I was essentially floating out of the stadium and damn near was just running back to the tailgate, because I just had just so much energy going on. We don't often leave the stadium feeling like that. We haven't yet. And the most exciting part is what if this can be the feeling we get a lot more than the one that we used to have? What if the new, consistent feeling we get leaving that stadium is what we had yesterday? And who's to say it won't be? Who's to say that we won't be a sustainably successful football program? And that moments like that are going to be not few and far between, but regular. And that is where I want to be. I want to be at a place where other programs, and it's not schadenfreude, I'm not wishing ill on other programs, but I would like to be in a position where others say, damn, man, Illinois fans, they just, all this happy, yay, we won a bunch of games. They're so freaking lucky. I'm sick of it. I want other fan bases to talk about us like that. And with basketball, they kind of have to now. In football, maybe a few years from now, they'll be doing the same thing. So Steve hit the nail on the head. YouTube, I want to hit up your comments here. And by the way, thank you all for tuning out on a Sunday morning. I will try to get you out before NFL Sunday. It is a bye week for the Bears. Honestly, fortuitous timing. And it's okay. I don't need a game to watch today. I'm gamed out. I'm just gonna soak in. My team is 6-1. My football team is 6-1. They're bowl eligible. They beat Michigan at home in the 100th anniversary game at Memorial Stadium. We're in Red Grange uniforms on CBS with Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson. And on Saturday, they get a shot against number 1 Oregon. Are you shitting me? Unbelievable. Oh, yeah. And then my baseball team is in the World Series. First time since 2009, which 15 years for Yankees is a lot. I know. I'm playing the world's smallest violin for all Yankees fans right now. But that's a big deal. By the way, weird bit of serendipity here, or coincidence, whichever you believe in. The last time Illinois beat Michigan, period, right? Yeah, 2019. 2009, at home, Halloween game, like I mentioned. That same night afterwards, Yankees beat Phillies in game 3 or 4 of the World Series. Not saying that, Illinois went over Michigan has any, correlation to the Yankees winning the World Series. The Dodgers, presumably the Dodgers, will be extremely tough. But what the hell? I got one more series to watch and the biggest one yet. And then my band, man, my Dave Matthews Band is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Jeez, just unbelievable. So hi to everybody. Kirpnos, Bobo, a little I to start things off. Chief Oski with Hail to the Orange. Bobo said the game is on Big Ten Network right now. I will be watching replays on YouTube probably all week. My breakfast viewing as I'm having my oatmeal before I go to school is anything on YouTube, and it's just going to be Illini football stuff this week. Let's be real. From Kirpnos. Getting my buddies together from all over the Midwest to make the trip for the Minnesota game. Let's get another sellout. I think that's the goal, Kirpnos, and I see no reason why not. I am excited to see the tangible benefits to the fan base and to ticket sales of a game like yesterday. It's early November against Minnesota, November 2nd. Weather should still be fine. Even if there's a cold front that moves through, that's fine. Wear your coat, and it's not going to be frigid probably yet. So, yeah, man, I could see a sellout for that. From Bobo. Last time Illinois faced the number one team on the road in a hostile environment, we all know what happened. Now, we're going to talk about Oregon later this week, Bobo, but I'm just of the shoot your shot mindset, kind of like with Nebraska and Penn State. Obviously, the Nebraska game went better than Penn State. I don't know how good Nebraska is. I'm going to chalk that up a little bit more to Indiana just being really good. And that Cignetti is maybe a year or two away from being Alabama's coach, the way it's going down there for DeBoer. But, yeah, shoot your shot, Bobo. Why not? Like the 21-point spread or whatever the early spread is. I understand it based on Oregon's talent, but play the game. Play the game. You're going to be feeling yourself. And, yeah. And I will say, trying to keep a larger focus in mind for what I want this team to accomplish. I think 9-3 is definitely on the table. A win like yesterday, 9-3 is on the table, right? And in that case, you're probably talking Citrus Bowl in Orlando against a good SEC school. That right there, to me, seems like a very realistic goal now for this team. Crazy to say, right? We aren't even November. That's a realistic goal. Make the Citrus Bowl. You might say, Carp, why not shoot for the college football playoff? We'll have that conversation if we beat Oregon. Or if you look pretty good and then you think, well, dang, let's just win out. And then you're 10-2 with losses to two other playoff teams, neither by huge margins. I would love to have that conversation. But I'll save that for later this week. All right, from T. Scott. Actually, I'm the first generation of my family. My entire family is Notre Dame fans. That's a tough thing to break away from, T. Scott. So I'm sharing all these moments with my daughter. Well, that is pretty sweet. And it was cool to see kids in the stadium with their parents, and then even thinking about my nieces and nephew and that they are growing up in a reality where Illinois football might actually be good. How about that? Because I didn't really get that. From Gary. Listening to you while I watch the Big Ten and 60 replay, what a great Sunday fall morning ILL. Gary, I'm wondering if right about now, it's 11:51 or so, if this is that moment where we got to be getting close to Matthew Bailey's pick. Or maybe it just happened. Boy, oh boy, you talk about an explosion. I got to say this before I forget to, the fake punt. You know that this podcast is more macro, and I don't do micro as much. I can, but I think a Jeremy and a Joey, for example, are better at that. That fake punt, balls of steel. It just happened, Bobo, the pick from Bailey. There you go. Balls of steel, man. As Trevor and Isaac and I were texting with each other, Dan Campbell-esque balls of steel. And even when I got out to the tailgate, my brother-in-law, who is a Michigan fan, and of course a Lions fan too. And the Lions are an easy team. They're a hard team to dislike. Of course, am I rooting for them as a Bears fan? No, but I don't hate him. And Dan Campbell's a big reason why. The guy just goes for it. And that fake punt, right call, right time, I was fooled by Hugh Robertson. I thought it's a high snap. I hear the crowd react like, what? And think, oh, no. And then I see Tanner Arkin, 30 yards, open field. Brilliant call, brilliantly executed, balls of steel. Second call, balls of steel, which I didn't agree with at the time. Luke Altmaier's helmet comes off when he gets the touchdown. Now, I think because it looked like it was ripped off, he should have been able to play the next down, but they don't let him. So it's Donovan Leary. Okay, well, you got your backup. Kick the extra point and go up 13. That's what I wanted to do because I figure if Michigan gets a touchdown and 2 field goals, no, Illinois insists on going for 2. It worked. I would say balls of steel, whether it worked or it didn't. That's balls of steel there from Bret and from Barry. And then Donovan Leary, a strike to the back corner of the end zone and a great catch from Zachary Franklin. Are you kidding me? At that moment, I knew we're winning this game. I just enjoyed the rest of it from there. Probably the fake punt, I knew. And after the fake punt worked, I thought, just punch it in here. You're probably fine, right? And that was the last time he scored, 21-7. All right, here we go. This is from Jason. You are a true, dedicated, lifelong fan. Love to see the passion. Thank you, Jason. Listen, I am dedicated, despite have I sometimes been very outward about I'm not going to the stadium, whether it's my protest or whatever, or me just being a surly fan. I try to be honest in those moments too, and never say, hey, you know what you should do? You should boycott with me. No, you fan however you want to fan. I like anything that's emotional based, right? You're going to have these sort of fits and starts and highs and lows. And for me, what I said yesterday, the first tweet that I was able to get out, though self-service was really bad, so it took a while, was that this is just something that everyone related to the Illini program deserves. Players first, coaches as well. Josh Whitman, who I haven't even mentioned yet, and that goes without saying, what he's done for this program. And that will be a continuing conversation because, yeah, the credit goes to the top. But also the fans. Like, all of us deserve this. We do. We just deserve it. So soak it in. Celebrate all freaking week. I'm not going to feel bad for celebrating all the way up to 2:30 on Saturday. You know what I mean? Like, no. We deserve this. We deserve the joy that this brings us. So, Jason, I appreciate that. Kirpnos, we flipped the switch because Bret has given us reason to believe. So Kirpnos is referring to how Illini fans have been able to flip that switch from, something bad's going to happen to, yeah, I think we're going to win this game, which is just such a dramatic shift and it's so much more relaxing and fun, quite honestly, to be sitting in that stadium and saying, okay, there might be a few bad things that happen against this team, but overall, I think we're better. I think we're better than the other team that we're facing, so I think we got this one. I have not felt that very much. In 2022, we were getting there, and then the Michigan State game was somewhat jarring, and the Purdue game was extra jarring. And it's not that I lost belief, but it was hard after finishing 8-5, after starting 7-1. And then last year, to not wonder if there's some sort of weird, I don't believe in hexes or curses, but if you do, it'd be understandable if you felt like there was one against Illinois football. And yet, here we are in year 4, a year removed from a disappointing third season, and we've been able to flip that switch. And it is about belief. It really is about belief, Kripnos, and starting to win these games. And I think, just like Kansas and Michigan, the scripts weren't all that different. If you think about it, it did take a big play against Kansas, a pick six, to really change the momentum of that game. And then you held on to that for the rest of it. I mean, to me, it's just sound football. Like Aaron Henry, let's talk about this real quick before I get to some other thoughts. Jumbled mess, admittedly, but I'm just kind of reacting on the fly here. Aaron Henry had a terrible second half against Purdue. And it would be only natural, and I know all of us were thinking this at least to some degree, wondering if there's something just amiss with your D coordinator. You can't allow that to happen against Purdue. You damn near lost because of it. Well, watching the game yesterday and thinking, I think that Purdue second half was the aberration. That was the outlier. I mean, that was all we could have hoped, right? Is that it was one really bad half. You chalk it up to just the weirdness of football. And look around the scoreboard yesterday. Weird all over the freaking place. Weird games. USC losing to Maryland, 28-27 or 29-28. Yeah, UCLA beating Rutgers 35-32. What? What are these games? Iowa losing at Michigan State. And here you are, steady, 6-1, one loss. And even my brother-in-law was like, wait, what's the you guys have only lost to Penn State, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, damn. I'm like, it's pretty good. I'm like, yeah, it is pretty good. So to Aaron Henry's credit, to have that game after that second half against Purdue, that's great coaching. It just objectively is. And maybe Bielema was more involved. Maybe Bielema, and he said something to the effect of, we got to simplify, right? And players were making reference yesterday to the fact that they were able to play faster. So to me, it seems like, okay, you know their quarterback isn't great. Sorry for my voice doing that. You know their quarterback's not great. You know that for them to win, they're going to have to run it. So you're going to stack the box, and you're basically just going to tell your corners on the outside, just play man coverage. And Matthew Bailey, here's your present. You get to cover Loveland, the first-round tight end, who was an absolute beast. But Bailey got his at the end of it. No, marvelous game from Aaron Henry and then from his players. Gabe Akis, by the way, made a lot of money yesterday. Dear God. In the third and fourth quarter, I don't know if there was a play where he didn't at least get a pressure on a pass drop back. It was just insane. And if that's his coming out party and he can play like that the rest of the year, yeah, you're winning 9 games and you might have a chance to win 10. I mean, the difference in having a pass rush like that and to do that after the Purdue game against that line for Michigan. And I know there's new pieces, but these are all 4 or 5-star guys in their line. They're huge. And you bullied them in the second half. How does this happen? Well, great coaching, hell of an effort, and yeah, we have some talent ourselves. This is from Bobo. I had a buddy that lives in Tennessee, and he said, do I take Illinois money line? And I said, yes, take Illinois money line and Illinois minus 14. Oh, this is in regards to, it looks like, Oregon. He took the Illini money line and plus 4.5. Oh, minus, okay, I see. So are you referencing yesterday's game, Bobo? I would not have bet on it just because of the questions I had after the second half against Purdue. But boy, am I glad they answered those questions. Let's see. Kyle, I think a part of it is a slow build of confidence because there are no moments where you say we won because we got fortunate breaks. Good point, Kyle. These aren't fluky wins. They just are not fluky. And if there were a fluky win, I'm trying to think. A fluky win is beating Wisconsin with Lovey in 2019, where you got outgained 2-1. Wisconsin was just kind of dancing around and aloof in that game, but you got the turnovers that mattered, and you got the game-winning kick. There's not a fluky nature to this. I'd agree with that, Kyle. Yeah. Kyle says, except for the fake punt, it was simply solid football. So you mentioned the fake punt. You aren't calling it not a solid play. You're just saying that's trickery, right? And it worked in that moment. Everything else is just line them up and play. I do love Lonnie's play calling, and I got to say, despite not having the biggest game yardage-wise, I think you finished around 260. Most of it rushing, where you got 50 from McCray, you got damn near 50 from Lawfrey, you got a lot from Luke, who was just, I know passing was a little bit off yesterday, but that kid is a gamer. He's a freaking gamer. You got a quarterback that can go win you games. I think Lunny called a really good game yesterday. The only concerns I had were the 4th and 1. You ran right in the teeth of their strength, which is their D-line, and just trying to run a power run in that 4th and 1. That's all Michigan was keying in on. I would have liked to see a quick little play fake, and then you just get Arkin or Boyer in the flat. I think that probably would have worked there. Hindsight 2020, of course, and you'd like to send a message early on that you can get that yard with running the ball. But I thought Lunny called a good game, and the criticism late, minor as it may be, we got the ball. You need a few first downs to really just close the game out. Maybe 7 minutes to go. And you have a false start that puts you 1st and 15 back at your own 18-yard line, something like that. 3 straight run plays to run off 2 minutes of clock. And I had some people around me, understandably, saying, oh, that's chicken shit. And I thought, I get it. But you know what? The way that you got to play the game in front of you, right? You're up 2 scores. You take 2 more minutes off the clock. Your defense is playing well. And if it weren't 1st and 15, if that wouldn't have happened, I think they would have called. They would have opened it up more to get a few first downs. But I understand that moment of conservatism. I had no problems really with Lunny other than those 2 yesterday. I love how he's mixing it up. I love the pre-snap motion. And I think he's avoiding getting too cute. There was a screen that was blown up. We had trips out to the right, I want to say, and you got Bryant, but he got licked on it. For the most part, though, you're just getting guys in space and letting them make plays. I thought Zakari had a great game yesterday. And then when Will Johnson went out, you knew that Bryant and Zakari could get you yards when you needed to. I know it wasn't a ton, but Lunny set them up for success. And talk about complimentary football. It just fed into what the defense was doing too. Sorry, guys. I need to just get a quick drink of coffee here as my voice is feeling it. All right, from Bobo. Got praise from everyone, but boy, Dave Portnoy didn't like the uniforms. Well, he's a Michigan fan. He can do whatever. From Braxton. The second half collapse versus Purdue might have been a good thing for this team. A wake-up call of sorts and a way for Bielema to motivate this defense to bring their A game yesterday. Braxton, he did say after the Purdue game, this is the best thing that could have happened to us. And I thought, And then I reflected on that, and it made a little bit of sense. A close win's always better than a close loss. You get the W, you move on, but I'm sure Sunday when they got back and watched film, they got their ears, they got chewed out. I was about to use a different phrase there. I'm sure they got chewed out. This is what you messed up on. What is this about? You can't do that. We got to fix this and that. No, I think that from a coaching perspective, that was a great opportunity and also a slice of humble pie to that team because defensively they played, let's call it a D-. I think you could call it an F against Purdue. I think that's fair. And they challenged themselves apparently this week to not allow that to happen and then came out with their best effort of the year. Yes, I know Tuttle is a bad quarterback, but Michigan still has enough talent on offense to score more than 7 points. And all year they have scored more than 7 points. All year they have gained more yards than what they did yesterday, except for maybe an exception or two. They found ways to 20-plus points pretty much every game this year. How was it that you held them to 7? You just played a great game. At the end of the game, Mullings, the running back, in the first half, you started worrying because every run seemed to be for 7-8 yards, right? His average was under 5 yards per carry yesterday. That'll do. That'll win the game. And it did. In the second half, you started to see them tighten up. Yes, of course, Mullings got a few 7-8 yarders in the second half. He was going to get his. Donovan Edwards, I don't know where that guy went. But that is just a credit to this defense, Braxton, specifically. And the offense, they just played the game in front of him. I mean, that's what I really appreciate is look at all the wins this season. They've all kind of been a different flavor. It's like Baskin-Robbins. Instead of 31 flavors, we've got 6 so far, but each game has had a different sort of path to victory, showing an ability for this coaching staff to say, okay, here's our opponent. What's the best opportunity to beat them? Even in the Penn State game, which you lost, because they just outmanned you, right? They just did. They probably could have won by another score. But you also had a chance to tie it in the fourth quarter. Why? The overall game plan gave you a chance, which makes me think, okay, I know what Oregon is, and they're big and scary, and they're extremely talented. But is this coaching staff going to give you a chance, even a small one? Sure. I'm going to watch it on Saturday and say, what the heck? Let's see what happens. From Bobo, whether they included Brian Barnhart multiple times throughout the game. Okay, so it was more than just that first. And from Bobo, 3 AP Top 25 wins for the first time since 1990. Wow. John Mackovic era. I think that was the year that they beat Colorado. Also from Bobo, who's all over it today. ESPN gives Illinois an 8.5% chance to beat Oregon. 1 in 10 seems about right. And that's what it is. You're on the road against number one. Number one teams don't lose at home a lot. Has it happened? Yes. Could it happen Saturday? Sure. Do I expect it? No. But we're going to watch. It's sports. Things happen. I know it's not great analysis, but it's true. I mean, just, again, look at the scoreboard yesterday. Bananas. Just things were all over the place. All right. Also from Bobo, Oregon opens as a 21.5-point favorite on FanDuel. Over-under, 54.5. And Illinois is 21st in coaches' rankings. Not sure what they'll be. That means they moved up just a spot, I believe. Not sure about the AP yet. So, from Bobo, Illinois rushed for 187. Michigan, 114. Unbelievable. If you would have told me that before the game, I would have put my mortgage on winning it. That's the story. Also from Bobo, I think Warner said there were 7 NFL teams at the game yesterday. Yeah. We got some guys. Akis made money. I'm so happy for that guy because he showed those flashes his freshman year. Sophomore year didn't quite come together. It wasn't a breakthrough, at least. Yesterday was a breakthrough game. Player of the game should be Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week, right? Like 14 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 2.5 tackles for loss, all over the place. Kyle, it does seem like Lunny and Henry have taken huge strides this year. Lunny was doing that last year, Kyle, in the second half. And the Paddock thing made me think, whoa, like, okay, Lunny might know what he's doing here. It was the first half of the season, specifically the Purdue and Nebraska games, where I didn't know what this thing was, and I was just incredibly frustrated with the offense. He is really settled into his role. I think he is worth an extension. I think it's worth keeping that continuity on offense. And also, keep this in mind. He is a good quarterback coach. Think about Tommy DeVito. Lunny's first year. So he and Tommy DeVito meet, and they get along swimmingly. You had a really good quarterbacking year from him. Last year was up and down with Luke. I still think more good than bad. And John Paddock had a great little run there. But yeah, it's good quarterback play consistently with Lunny, and it's a joy to watch. It's so much more comforting to be like, oh, we got a quarterback and we got an offensive coordinator that knows how to coach them. One last one from Bobo. Yesterday was the fewest points Michigan has scored in a game since 2014. Akis had 13 tackles, Rosiak 12, Bailey 11, all career highs. All right, let's get to the thoughts on Twitter before we get out of here today. And the question was really simple. What did yesterday mean to you? So I didn't get too much more detail than that. I just kind of wanted to leave it open for people to just open up with what yesterday feels like and why it's important to them. From Ethan, validation, or as he phonetically spells it out, validation. Just build the damn statue. I don't care about any narratives about Michigan being down. Get that out of here. Illinois went out there with all the hype surrounding yesterday and got it done. When was the last time they did that? Signature win. Go beat Oregon. Ethan's preseason prediction, which we had a good chuckle at in the preseason pod, was 10-2. It can happen, which is nuts. From Herb Lawrence, good guy. Been listening to him for a long time up in Chicago sports media. It means that we've arrived at the standard I set for them in only 7 games. All I want for the program is to have the results that Iowa has each year. 8 wins or so, and a bowl game. Occasionally get to 10 wins, go to a luxurious bowl game. They are overperforming, and I love it. Me too, Herb. From David. From the uniforms to the CBS intro to the product on the field today, it was one of the better feelings I've ever had as an Illini football fan. Feels almost like an arrival moment for the respect and relevance that we have so desperately longed for as a fan base. Well said, David. From Kurt, one of my favorite moments as an Illini fan. The delivering of promises by Whitman and Bret are something that we've deserved as a fan base for so long. 100%, Kurt. And I haven't done a whole lot of this today, but yes, 100% give credit to Bret. Well, Bret Bielema, of course. I mean, he's just a good football coach. Just a really good football coach. His record would bear that out. And I know Jeremy Warner's talked about this, and I agree with it. You know, this can be his Mona Lisa, right? This can be his legacy because he was the post-Barry Alvarez guy at Wisconsin, had a lot of success. No, his legacy could be here. And he knows that. And the way he talked yesterday, he got emotional a few times, of course, referencing his mom passing before the last Michigan game. His sister, apparently, back when he was a player, passed the week or the day of a game against Michigan. So that game has a lot of heaviness to him. But the way he spoke just reads to me like this is his home. We took a chance on him, and you can call it that. He had not been a college coach for like 7 or 8 years. And you took a chance on him. And it's paying off. And I think he will pay it back with loyalty. And you know that Whitman's going to pay him the money that it needs to keep him in case someone wanted him. But what a fit. What a great fit. By the way, those videos from the East Stands, the towers, right, where you got all the ramps that go down, and this new tradition post-game of the team walking back into the Smith Performance Center and the crowds surrounding them all throughout the tunnel, over the ramps, the noise. It's just, I wish I were on the east side now. Quick question for Bobo. Did I rush the field? I didn't. I was so so tempted, not from my seats, but I got out to the West Main. I'm basking in it. And then I see 2 ramps down. What they did for safety reasons is they say, okay, listen, students, you want to go in the field? Okay, follow us, go down this ramp. So I see a rush of students. I'm like, oh, do I go? Do I go? I didn't go. I want to get back out to the tailgate. I wanted to see the family and friends and soak in this feeling with all of them. But yeah, it was tempting. It was tempting. From Ben, it felt so surreal. It was redemptive after years of disappointments as an Illini football fan. This program is different. I think it is, Ben. And that, to me, is the most exciting thing. Just the notion that maybe we can just be good. That's all any of us are asking for, and maybe we're there, right? From Kevin, yesterday was a memory made with my dad, son, and friends, and as an Illini living in Michigan, schadenfreude. And he includes a video of us playing Mr. Brightside at the 2-minute warning. I didn't know that was a Michigan tradition. Maybe I don't watch enough Michigan games. But yes, that is something they do at their games. It's funny, for such an anthem, I don't know the words to Mr. Brightside. It's a great song. And the Killers write great, big anthemic songs, and I appreciate that. But I just kind of, I don't know the words really. But the student section did. From Teddy, culmination of what I always wanted for my team. A big game, big moments, a big win, a full house, and a full tailgate lot, or full tailgate lots. I sat in the stadium next to a lifelong friend watching the win. We'll remember this one for a long time. Thanks, Brett. Thanks, Josh. And thanks, Illini. Yeah, gratitude is another feeling I have today, Teddy. And watching it with my sister. The Kansas game, was watching it with a really good friend of mine. And yeah, these are moments. They just are. I will always remember yesterday. Every bit of it. Every little detail that culminated in just, I call it a 5-star day. And my friends and I use that term, and it's from some movie about soccer hooligans. 5-star day. And if I had a good British accent, I would say it and such, but I don't. And that's what it is. You can, there's not anything else that can bring people together quite like sports. Yes, concerts, but there's less of a communal thing just because music, to its credit, is more universal. The sports thing that we have, very regional, very local, right? This is an Illini thing. If you want to use the word tribe, that works for sports fandom. This is our tribe. This is our community. This is our friends and family that we tailgate with and that we sit in the games with. And we've been through a lot of disappointments, so then we get these moments, and damn, are they sweet. So, Teddy, I'm going to remember this forever. From John, progress. Saturdays are fun and competitive. That's all I'm looking for. And the occasional victory. You're getting those, John. You're getting those. From Ryan, this felt like the official start to sustained relevance. Things have been trending well for a while, but this is one of those wins that needed to happen and put in the rear view. You're right, it did need to happen. If they would have lost, Trevor was making this comment in our text thread, and I agree with it, then you start puckering up a little bit because you know Oregon's a tall task. We can be realistic about that. And then Minnesota is not playing bad. They're actually pretty solid. Now, we have success with Bret Bielema against Minnesota. I still like the matchup. And I like these matchups going forward. I just think that with your quarterback, you're going to find ways to win another few games, right? But it would have been more tense because then you're 5-2, and then after Oregon, you might be 5-3, and then you got, would that be right? Yeah. And then 5-3 with Minnesota coming to town. Oh, boy, you can't drop that. And then, hey, listen, Michigan State looked good last night, objectively good. And Childs is a young quarterback, but when he's not throwing picks, he's tough to stop. So that'll be a challenge. There are still challenges left. Oddly enough, Rutgers does not strike me as one like it did before the season. And Northwestern, after beating Maryland, well, Maryland beat USC. It's just, again, you can't really do the transitive property in sports. They don't look good, Northwestern. They don't. So I still see 3 wins. That means, I don't know, you split the home games against Minnesota, Michigan State. I think you beat Rutgers. I think you win 2 out of 3 against Minnesota, Michigan State, and Rutgers. I think it is okay if they were to drop one of those. I wouldn't think any less of this team because that's football. And while I think this has been a very good season, it's been a great season, I don't know if they're yet a great team. What they're doing is maximizing their potential. And if they keep doing that, they'll finish 10-2. But 9-3 is still fantastic. And it's right there, and it still gives you a little bit of margin for error. What a crazy situation to be in. From Anthony, good to see Anthony yesterday and your dad as well. I was happy to see Memorial Stadium full again. I've now been to 2 sold-out games this year. This has not happened in a long time. From Banana Champaign, hey, Banana, it shows the unpredictability of college football. Last year, we thought we were going to kill it, and we missed a bowl. And this year, we were preparing for the worst and made a bowl game in October. From Andy, progress and Illinois' NIL is on a level to compete. It appears so. From Corey K89, when asked, what did yesterday mean to you? One-word response. Everything. Succinct, to the point. I like it, Corey. From Jared. Even watching from afar in Texas, seeing the stadium full and loud from kickoff made me emotional. Yeah, I felt it, Jared. I didn't tear up, but it's just, you feel it kind of like in your chest, a little bit in your back. You just, not like your knees get weak or anything, but it's this weird body buzz that kind of goes through you. And it kind of rests up here in my forehead. And I was like, am I going to cry? No, I don't think I'm going to cry. And I didn't. But you kind of feel this, the cup overfloweth, right? Just a lot of positive emotions yesterday. Jared continues. It's one thing to believe we could have that at Memorial Stadium. It's another to see it. Already talking to my buddies across the country about an annual trip. Go Illini. Jared, that moment for me this morning, I got like 6 hours of sleep, 5 hours the night before. I'm excited for my couch nap with my dog during NFL Sunday today. And watching the sepia-toned, old-timey intro on CBS, which was great. They do a drone was it a drone shot? Well, it was a drone shot because they don't do blimps anymore. I didn't see any blimps yesterday. And the sepia, it's above overhead shot of Memorial Stadium. And as it's rotating around, it goes from sepia-toned to full color. And I watched that this morning. Like, it looks so good. We look legit. That stadium was beautiful yesterday. When it did that, man, it's like Wizard of Oz, from sepia tone to color. And it just popped. Just epic production from CBS. Happy to be on them again on Saturday. They were nothing but complimentary, it sounded like. I'm excited to watch more of that telecast. From Matthew, can someone tell Lunny to stop running the ball up the middle on first down for a total of 2 yards? Matthew, I'll get a real quick. I shouldn't have even read that, but whatever. Hey, Matthew, they won, but also, you have to. I know it's not always sexy. You have to try. You have to try to establish a run game. You can't pass on every first down. And sometimes you're only going to get 2 yards. 2 yards is better than -2. And for the most part yesterday, they avoided negative running plays. I'll take 2 yards for first down. I think Luke will pick up 8 in the next 2 downs. I'll take 2. I'd prefer 5 or 6, of course. And by the way, Josh McCray, not flashy yet again, but at the end, yes, you had to punt it, but you got a first down to help you really just ice that game. 2 first downs, I think, in that final offensive drive. And what was so beautiful about those is just the push. Like, he was getting his, but then the offensive line was still pushing 5-6 yards down the field. Old school, smash mouth football when you need to ice the game, and they essentially did. So cool. From Bagman, the history of the school that I love being on display for the whole country, proudly represented by the team on the field. 100% Bagman. All right, a few more here on the YouTube feed. From B. Mills, the atmosphere in that stadium yesterday was electric. It truly was, B. Mills. It was special. Truthfully speaking, felt good to be the darling of college football, from the CBS production to beating the defending national champs. We are not a laughingstock anymore. Nope, we are not. We are not the laughingstock. Isn't that nice? I mean, dude, 4 years ago, 2020, and I know that was a weird COVID season, but nonetheless, remember that first game at Wisconsin? It was a Friday night in October. Got spanked. Graham Mertz ate us for lunch. I mean, this is a year if we beat Wisconsin at home. You think you made a bowl game, maybe Lovey can... No, he won 2 games, and most of those losses were blowouts. They stunk. And here we are. 4 years later, if you would have told me this is what you're building towards, as a 100th anniversary game against Michigan, that you're going to win against the defending national champions to get bowl eligible before my birthday. My birthday is October 21st. In my life, how many times have I had a bowl eligible Illini team October 21st? 2011, which I know that season didn't end well, but 2011, 2001, that's it. Since I've been following them. Because 2007, they didn't get bowl eligible until the last weekend of October against Ball State. And 2010, they didn't get their sixth win until mid-November. Yeah, it doesn't happen much. Oh, well, hold on a second. Against Minnesota that was close. That was right around my birthday. So twice, really, with Bret Bielema. 2022, Ethan, yeah. I don't think it was quite my birthday yet. It was just after. Was that right? Well, whatever day that Minnesota was, we're going to call it that. 2 times in my life, 4, they have been bowl eligible on or around my birthday. Twice with Bret Bielema. So there you go. That's the story of how different of a program it is under him. Kirpnos, the Tower tradition is stuff of big-time programs. Dude, yes, it is. It's these little things, right? I don't know if Thunderstruck for the team coming out does a whole lot. Thunderstruck, I love AC/DC, but a lot of teams do Thunderstruck. Okay, but you keep it, and that can become considered a tradition. You already got the Marching Illini. You have the new air raid siren thing, and yesterday was Howard Griffith. And then Jordan Poulter did it before the fourth quarter. That Tower tradition, though, is really cool, and it's almost had me thinking, how do I get over there? I think there's a way to get through the student section to get over there and wait for the team. And it'd be worth it because that looks so cool. I get chills watching those videos. All right, one more. Oh, 2 more. B. Mills says, I kept waiting for Michigan to claw back and tie that game up, but it never happened. Illinois just simply took care of business. That's it. Hey, and Bobo says this. Yeah, so 2022 game against Minnesota was October 15th. So, yes, on my birthday, that's right, they were bowl eligible because then it was a bye week. So I remember 6 days later on my birthday, Watson's, another great place in downtown Champaign. My wife and I go there, and I'm still soaking in it then. We're 6-1, right? Yeah, 6-1, just like we are this year. And I didn't mind the bye week then because it was like, hey, I got to sit with the 6th win for yet another week. And then they beat Nebraska to go 7-1 the following week after that around Halloween. All right, from Bobo, 24/7 Sports latest bowl projection, Citrus Bowl, LSU versus Illinois. It does seem, if you go 9-3, Citrus Bowl seems right because I would imagine 4 Big Ten teams will make the playoff, and I do think Indiana will be one of them. They have less opportunities for quality wins or like the marquee win, but the margins that they're getting, you can't dismiss that. Nebraska will probably eke their way into a bowl game. They're 5-3 right now. But the way that they're dismantling everybody they play, and they do play to Ohio State, I think that's going to be a great game. I am not going to count out Indiana in that game. Watching them yesterday, that's legit. That offense is legit. And then they only give up 7 points. Cignetti he has this savant-like quality, as my brother-in-law, Michigan fan, said. He's reminded of Harbaugh because Harbaugh can come off not really adversarial, but just isn't always the most charismatic guy. And I don't think Cignetti necessarily is either. But he's clearly just a guy that lives, eats, drinks, breathes, sleeps football. That's it. And it's in his blood, and he just seems to maximize whatever team he's coaching. He will be in the SEC. I'm telling Alabama's next coach. Just book it. Cignetti. They will not abide by Kalen DeBoer. That's not happening. Crazy to say that just 3 weeks after they beat Georgia at home. All right, and Ethan, I think we should start rushing the field after every game. I'll just lean into it. Yeah, why not? And from Justin, chores in my 200 level shirt today. What a day yesterday. Can't wait till the 2nd. Thanks, Justin. I appreciate it. No relation. Same last name, but no relation. All right, before I get out of here, looks like I might have gotten a couple more responses on Twitter. Want to get those? Maybe. Nope, just a few more likes there. Okay, cool. Longer podcast than usual, but that's a game worthy of it. Just unbelievable, guys. Just amazing. And I just feel today something that I haven't felt as an Illini football fan much in my life. And I've felt gratitude. I felt, happiness, joy. But days like that, I mean, any program would kill to have a day like that. Everything was perfect. I say the game of the century, right? Because it was 100 years in the making, and the game itself wasn't necessarily the reason it was the game of the century. But it is truly only once in 100 years do you get all the stars to align like they did yesterday. And they did. And then the most difficult part was the game itself. And guess what? They just went out there and they took care of business, as some of you have made note of. They did so effectively. They did so efficiently. It was beautifully simple football to watch. So simple. Let the other team out stupid themselves. You just stay the course and play good football. And that's what can lead this Bret Bielema-led program to sustained success. And it feels like we're on the doorstep of that. And maybe we're going to look back, and I think there's a good chance of it, where we look back and say, oh, that was the arrival moment, as some of you have made note of as well. And if so, what a special thing to be a part of, to be in that stadium and to experience it with a sold-out crowd that was, just as some of you have said, electric. And not the last electric crowd that we'll have at that stadium. So, hey, if you haven't already, I'm not going to do that thing where, hey, buy tickets to the game. I think the team has made their pitch for you. It was fun. It's a fun stadium to be in. I hope that Minnesota and Michigan State get good turnouts, and I imagine they will. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get another sellout or two. I'll be excited to see how the DIA kind of manages that to end the year with, what would that be? 3 consecutive sellouts. That would be pretty special. And why not? This team's worthy of it, and this coaching staff's worthy of it, and this athletic department. They're operating like a big boy athletic department. And for someone that grew up in the 90s and through the 2000s, through the Mike Thomas era, didn't always do that. And credit to Whitman and all the way down. It was a top-notch day, and one that I think we'll remember for the rest of our lives. All right, everybody. Hamilton Walkers, downtown Champaign, great place for steak, seafood, and spirits. Whether it's a pregame or postgame celebration spot, a date night, you can go formal, you can go informal. You can wear shorts and a T-shirt in there. They don't care. It's a classy joint, but they're not pretentious. That's what I love about them. In addition to food that is phenomenal, it is a scratch kitchen, everything made from scratch, and it tastes like that too. So good. Appreciate Nathan and all the staff over at Hamilton Walkers that were so great for the book release event, and a place that I try to frequent as much as I can. Just the best in Champaign-Urbana, a town that has a lot of good restaurants, mind you, but Hamilton Walkers stands above the rest. Also got to thank State Farm agent Brian Hansen, online at brianismyguy.com. I'm sure Brian had a great day yesterday, probably in the tailgate lots as well. Life, auto, home, business renters, you name it, brianismyguy.com. Dogtown Heating and Plumbing, your home's best friend at 217-841-4728. It's about that time to get your furnace checked, so call them today. Dogtown Heating and Plumbing at 217-841-4728. And finally, Owen Builders LLC, online at owenbuildersllc.com. Check out a gallery of their many home improvement projects online and get a free quote today at owenbuildersllc.com. Luke, I'm sure, had a hell of a day yesterday as well. So good seeing some of you at the tailgate yesterday. I appreciate those that stop by and say hi. And enjoy this week. We will do a midweek podcast and maybe reflect a little bit more on this. We'll talk about Oregon. We'll talk about the rankings and just look ahead to the rest of the season. But what else is there to say? Life is good. Illinois is bowl eligible. 100th anniversary went off without a hitch. It was a perfect day, and I get the feeling that there might even be better days ahead for this program. When you have a moment like that, as Bret Bielema said yesterday, now the important thing is to capitalize on it. And I get the feeling that all of this prep work for the 100th anniversary and carrying it out all through the game itself and the victory is really just a foundation for what comes next. And that's what excites me the most. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching those on YouTube today. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you later this week. It is the 200 level. Thanks, everybody. Longer podcast today. Go enjoy your NFL Sunday. A nap if you need to. I certainly will. And we will see you later this week. ILL. I and I, Bobo. See ya.